So last week we had our very first episode in which you guys submit either an email or a direct message detailing your financial position. And the idea being that I would then react to it as if I was in that same exact position. That video was received very well, and shortly after, one of you guys decided to submit another email. For those of you that are new or need a reminder, remember that this is about being positive and learning from each other's experiences. So with that said, enough of the long-winded introduction, and let's get right to it. Hi Alex, I saw your video on personal finance and wanted to send mine in as well. A little bit about me. I'm 27 years old and live in Southern California. I try my best to budget and follow a budget each month. My money gets deposited into my savings account, and I manually transfer over each month's allowance into spending. I have a 4-year bachelor's degree in business administration with $38,000 in student loans that are paused due to the SAVE plan. I have no credit card debt and never carry over a balance. You are off to a terrific start, by the way. Recently, I have been making 2 payments on my card when I use it to further lower my utilization. A credit score of 772, woohoo. That is another component of your personal profile, by the way. I do, however, owe 1,000 USD to my brother for a plane ticket that I am paying off in installments of $500 each paycheck. I pay $500 per month to cover the cost of living with my parents, $165 for insurance per month. I got into an accident earlier this year, and my rates went up. If you didn't know, I've actually been through that situation, and I have a video all about it, so I'm sorry to hear that. $17 for Spotify, and my biggest expense is therapy once a month at $195. And those are all of my monthly recurring payments. What's great about the details that you're sharing with us here is that we don't only just have assets and liabilities to paint a picture of your financial position, but we now have the components of the cash flow, what's coming in versus what's going out. And I don't think there's much here to comment on or criticize because $500 a month to live with your parents is already putting you ahead of people that have to either live alone or even live with a couple roommates. The $165 for insurance, that's something that just isn't avoidable. You will always be faced with costs like that if you own a car. The $17 for Spotify, I mean, that's kind of steep for a streaming service, but we got to enjoy some things. And a quick comment on the $195 that you spend on therapy. First of all, thanks for being brave enough for actually sharing that information with us. But that's something that I don't think you can just look at the dollars and cents and make a decision. If you didn't do therapy, could you be saving $195 a month and putting it towards some high-yield savings account or some Roth IRA? Sure. But what does any of that matter if you're not right here? It goes back to my belief that you need to invest in not only your health, but your well-being. If you're not right in those areas of your life, then the personal finance, the investing for your future, none of that matters. So rather than treating the $195 as an expense, I think you need to treat the $195 as an investment. But anyways, let's keep going. I own my car. It's a 1997 Honda Accord that is quite old, and I'm trying to put off a car purchase for as long as possible. Oh my god, I can't express this enough to you that if you can run this Accord into the damn ground until the wheels fall off, do it. Where car prices are not nearly low enough to justify how unaffordable they are right now. Not only are average car prices sky high, but you also have to consider that interest rates are still elevated. Could you make the argument that the maintenance associated with an older car is high enough to justify the cost of a new car? Maybe, but not with a Honda. My salary sits at $75,000, and I have been working at this company for just over a year now. After the following deductions, my take home is $1,540 every 2 weeks, or $3,080 each month. This person details what those deductions are, and I'm going to read them out because they're likely the deductions that you guys face on your paychecks. Taxes at $775, HSA and LPFSA contributions at $128, retirement, which is a 401k, is $289, and other accident insurance and ESPP at $154. There's 3 acronyms listed here in the deductions that I think are worth going over. The HSA stands for Health Savings Account, which is actually pretty common. But the LPFSA, which stands for Limited Purpose Flexible Spending Arrangement, that's a mouthful, is similar to an HSA, but it typically covers expenses like vision and dental. Less common than the HSA. And the third acronym was ESPP, which stands for Employee Stock Purchasing Plan. ESPPs are terrific supplementation to the already existing 401k and other retirement options. The whole point of the ESPP is to align your incentives with those of management and leadership and that executive level of the company. $400 is automatically put into a vault each paycheck that I cannot touch until I hit $3,000, and I will transfer $200 to checking for all personal spending. Additionally, each paycheck I give $165 to my church. That's very generous of you. Now, for the things I actually own, I have a personal brokerage account that is worth $7,000, a retirement account holding $12,000, which consists of 10% salary contribution with a 100% match on the first 5%, which is a generous employer match program, by the way. HSA worth $1,800 with the max contribution. And my LPFSA currently holds $1,800 with some dental expenses, around $1,600 coming later in the year. The following year, I'm looking to half my contribution to this account. My savings currently totals $800, which sits in an account with 4.6% APY, which is a SoFi high yield savings account. I think that I run a tight budget and would like a little bit more room to breathe, but also want to be realistic. I've definitely said no to go out for drinks with friends due to cost and eaten dinners at home before meeting up. I've been there. Sometimes I see my friends driving new cars and going out and wonder if I'm on the right track or making too many sacrifices. I think that my biggest areas for opportunity are in speaking to my therapist about reducing fees or cutting it altogether. One of my bigger goals currently is to save $3,000, as this would give me at least 3 months of emergency fund so that I could feel a little bit more secure, and then from there upping the number to 8 to 10 grand for extra buffer. Additionally, I have been thinking about selling the assets in my personal brokerage account. I would pay long-term capital gains tax, and from there, transferring that money into a Roth IRA. On a side note, I constantly feel like I am behind and needing to catch up with everyone else. I try my best to save and reduce costs. I'm currently in school to receive my Six Sigma Black Belt certification, paid for by my company, hoping to learn more and secure higher pay. I would greatly appreciate any and all insight that you have into my situation and really appreciate the work that you are doing. I think I sometimes see too much finance on YouTube and forget what the average experience is like. Best, viewer. Alright, so with all of that detail in the email, we have a pretty good picture of what this person is going through financially. Let's first tackle the information that we got on the assets and liabilities. When you add up the brokerage account, the 401k, the HSA, the LPFSA, and the high yield savings account, their assets total $23,400. And in the liabilities column, we just have 2 items, which is their student loans and a personal loan for some airfare, which totals to $39,000. Looking at this balance sheet, what I see that I really like is that the brokerage account and the 401k, which total $19,000 worth of assets, that accounts for over 80% of this person's total assets. And here's the thing, because their assets are so heavily weighted towards these 2 things, as those 2 things grow, they're invested in the markets and they're accruing actual value, well, so will their assets. And it won't be straight, it won't be linear, but over time, it will look exponential. But at the same time, something I see here that I don't necessarily like is the $800 in savings. But you've already addressed that. You know that you need to get those savings up to a higher level for you to feel comfortable in your position. And as for your liabilities, there's nothing too complex here. There are student loans, but like you said, they're currently paused, so you have some breathing room. But in the event that they get unpaused, 38 grand, it's a lot, but it's also doable. And then, of course, the personal loan that you owe your brother for the plane tickets, which sounds like you're going to pay off pretty soon. So toss that out. So net worth is total assets minus total liabilities. And unfortunately, on paper, your net worth is negative. And is that because you have millions of dollars in debt that you owe on a house and a car and all that? No, it's not. In fact, it's the opposite. Your liabilities are relatively minimal. It's just that the assets aren't quite there yet. And for your guys' knowledge, if you're looking at your personal balance sheet, one of the best ratios that you can calculate is if you take total liabilities and divide it by your total assets. And that'll give you a ratio that you can kind of gauge how well you're doing. So in this instance, the total debt to assets ratio is 1.67, meaning that for every dollar of assets that this person owns, they also have $1.67 in liabilities. So you have negative net worth. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. It really isn't, because you've said a few things in your email that lead me to believe that you understand that a lot of these asset line items need to increase in value, whether that's consistently contributing to them or just upping the amount that you're going to dedicate to every month. And also remember, if you keep your liabilities at where they are, your student loans are not unpaused and you pay off that personal loan to your brother, your assets will grow over time. That brokerage account will increase in value over time. That 401k will increase in value. And you've already stated that you're going to contribute more to your high yield savings account. So as those assets go up and your liabilities stay the same, well, you're tilting the scales in favor of positive net worth. And will you be able to realistically do that? Yes, you will, because based off of the information that you gave us, your cash in is $3,080 a month, and your cash out is $1,042 a month. So that means that you are positive cash flowing in terms of your earnings. You're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you have money left over to then contribute to where you think you need to improve. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, but you're making $75,000 a year at 27 years old. Not only is that above average, but it's high enough where you should be pretty proud of that salary. And I made this comment last week. The presence of debt like student loans isn't a huge red flag if you're utilizing it to further your professional path, which you did. You got a bachelor's in business administration, and it sounds like you have a really good head on your shoulders. Now, you did mention that you're considering liquidating your brokerage account and converting it to a Roth IRA. Here's the thing about that, and it's a little more complex than saying yes or no, that's a good or bad decision. So I'll just give you my opinion. Any time that I see a financial decision entailing the liquidation of existing assets, I'm against it. And that's because it invokes a tax event. The name of the game is to not only minimize the amount of taxes that you pay out, you want to keep as much money in your pocket instead of Uncle Sam's, but you also want to set it and forget it. You want to buy and hold, because that's where the compounding happens within that asset. Now, I understand that your whole purpose is to convert it to a Roth IRA and get those tax advantages, but why not just start contributing to the Roth separately? So let the $7,000 in your brokerage account sit there and do its thing. And if you're hell-bent on having a Roth IRA, well, then make that one of your financial goals. And if your whole thing is about getting $7,000 in a lump sum and then investing it into the Roth to maximize that long-term growth that is tax-free, then I totally get that. And really, that's something that you'll learn about my preferred investing method, is that anytime liquidation is involved for long-term investments, I'm skeptical about the move. What I also loved about your email is that you were open about your existing financial and professional goals. So the first one was you want to get your savings/emergency fund up to $3,000. That is step number one. From this point on, get that savings to where you need it to be. And that's not only security, but it also gives you the financial freedom to then invest at a higher pace. And on top of that $3,000 goal, you then said you'd like to raise that anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000, which is awesome. Now, just to see what this would do for your net worth, let's assume that your liabilities stay the same and so does everything else, but your high yield savings account increases to $10,000. The result of that is not only are you reducing further that total debt to assets ratio, but your total assets grow to $32,600. And let's just say, for the sake of this exercise, that the following year, you meet the maximum contribution limit for a Roth IRA. That's now one of your financial goals, which is $7,000 next year. That grows your total assets to $39,600 and gives you a net worth that's positive. And the beauty of that is that we assumed that your brokerage and your 401k didn't increase in value 1 cent. Also, I think it's really cool that your company is paying for a certification in Six Sigma. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Six Sigma, it's basically the study of process and procedure that originated in manufacturing. And the idea is that through efficiency and through cost savings, what you get is a more consistent, high quality end user product. And the Six Sigma certification really highlights the importance of investing in your individual skill set, which should also be seen as a different form of investing that goes beyond the traditional brokerage and 401k and whatnot. You're investing in yourself and therefore your earning power. Yeah, I'm looking at all of this and I'm taking into consideration your personal profile, your age, your salary, your education, what your liabilities are, what those assets consist of, and more importantly, your financial goals. I think you're in a great place. I think you understand what you need to do moving forward. So with that said, I'd like to address two things that you said at the end of your email. The part that you said about missing out on friends and experiences and nice things. I've definitely been in your position where I was just so focused on the finances that I was holding myself back from having fun experiences with friends and family and going to make the memories that you just can't put a dollar amount to. What I would do is take striking a balance between saving for your finances and being a little cheap when you have to, and making memorable experiences with your loved ones and with yourself. Take that balance and put it right there with your financial and professional goals. Consider it a life goal. But with that said, you're going to have to be honest with yourself about what is a memorable experience and what is something that you just simply can't afford. And I guess a personal example that I could use that puts that into perspective, I love going to the movies. It's so expensive these days. I mean, individual tickets are almost $20 if you're going to IMAX. Popcorn is ridiculous, soda, candy, you name it. Concessions are ridiculous. It's a racket. But I love the movie so much. The experience itself is so memorable. It's so life-defining that that's something I won't ever give up. And the second thing that you said that I think is incredibly important for all of us to talk about is the sense that you are behind and the role that financial content and social media is playing in that. Remember that we are all on our individual paths to success and to reaching our financial goals. Not everyone's path is going to be the same, and especially their timeline. So never judge yourself based solely on comparison if it is creating a negative relationship with that thing. Personal finance is about growth. Personal finance is about freedom and opportunity. It is not about comparing yourself to others and making yourself feel bad. That's the negative relationship that you want to avoid. And if financial content on social media is developing this negative relationship with personal finance, then I suggest you stop watching it. There are so many different ways to learn about finance that isn't social media. There are fantastic books out there. There are fantastic blogs out there. There are fantastic podcasts out there, all of which will be just as effective at teaching you personal finance than stuff that you see on social media. The bottom line is this: you are not behind. You are not ahead. You are exactly where you need to be, because this is your journey and your journey alone. That ending was a bit cheesy for my taste, but it did need to be said. To the viewer that submitted this email, thank you so much for all of the detail and all of the transparency that you offered. I think a lot of us can learn from what you provided here today, and I hope that you take away from this video a new sense of confidence and security in where you are. I'll say this, just from reading your email alone, I can tell that you have an above average level of financial education. So really leverage that and continue doing what you're already doing. and you'll be just fine. Guys, thank you so much for another opportunity to do this kind of video. I really enjoy it, I like this format, and I hope that it goes a lot further. But it'll only go as far as you guys will take it. So if you're interested in submitting an email, you can find the email here or in the description down below. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care of yourself, and best of luck.